Well, welcome everybody to the Reinsurance Podcast here at Monte Carlo Rendezvous 2023. Delighted to be joined by another special guest. We have Will Dove, who's the head of Ceded Re at Everest. Welcome, Will. How are you doing?
Doing fine, Ben. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm glad to have you on the show, and I'm especially glad because we talk about buying reinsurance a lot, but it's only rare that we get a chance to sit down with somebody who does it day in, day out, and especially an event like this, probably day in, night out, and so on, or however that would work. But I'd love if you could give us a bit of a flavour of what's it like being a reinsurance buyer at Monte Carlo.
Well, it's it's not for the faint of heart, and I tell my team it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You have to pace yourself during this week. It's a unique opportunity, during the year to meet an incredible cross section of the global reinsurance industry. Right? I mean, every broker, every significant reinsurer is here, and for Everest, our insurance business is a rapidly growing part of our organization, and particularly the international side of that business. And so the chance to tell that story and explain our vision and our goals to current and prospective partners is just invaluable.
Absolutely. And I guess you get to meet new ones potentially, or others who are vying to join a panel somewhere, brokers who want to work with you, because we've got all these challenger brokers popping up everywhere. How do you manage demand for your business effectively?
Well, you have to be I would say careful in allocating your time where it's going to have the most effect, right? And our philosophy is we want to trade with reinsurers who have top financial strength, but also who share our vision of focusing on underwriting profit and expanding geographically and by product in the commercial insurance segment, right? So we target reinsurance partners who can support us across multiple classes, multiple treaties, multiple geographies.
Yep.
And so we're not necessarily looking to find new supporters for each treaty that are different, but rather those who can support us more broadly, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Sense.
And I think for the reinsurer that has value because they get a more diversified spread of risk from us, and as we manage our portfolio, they share our results in an aligned fashion.
Absolutely. And I guess now we're at Monte Carlo here in early September, mid-September effectively. If we were to zoom out a bit to the whole year, what sort of point of time is this for you guys? Are you busy beforehand and busy afterwards? Obviously there are more conferences coming up. How pivotal is this week within that broader timeline?
We're busy all year round,
yeah.
Ben, but I would say this conference is a more general relationship building opportunity, a chance to connect with our partners, give them updates on how we're doing broadly, and solicit support for future growth. Some of the other conferences later in the year, we generally focus on specific lines of business based on when those treaties renew.
Yeah, it makes sense. So less of the sort of deal by deal view here and much more holistic relationships, especially in your case, as you said, if you're looking at those broader cross-class sort of relationships.
That's right.
Oh, exciting. And being here in Monte Carlo, we're sort of 2 days through now, we've got a couple of days to go. What are you most looking forward to over the next few days?
Well, we have some important meetings in the next couple of days with some of our key partners, and just looking to again share our progress, understand how their view of risk is changing, particularly on certain classes where there's whether loss activity or just changes in the environment, and and being able to have that direct conversation rather than try to just read the press reports or what they say to the public is again a uniquely valuable part of Monte Carlo for me.
And any key themes coming up so far, topics wise?
Or? I think most reinsurers are projecting that the hard market will continue, but but be maybe a little bit more stable and not have as many gyrations as we've seen over the past year.
Yeah.
I guess for me as a buyer, if I understand what the price of capital is, if that fits with our operating model and is efficient for us as a buyer, then I can handle that. What's harder to handle is when you have changes in terms and conditions, changes in coverage that we may not be able to mirror on the direct side, right? Because there are many lines where you're restricted as far as what sorts of perils you can exclude, for example.
Yep.
So,
no, that makes complete sense. And I guess one other thing I wanted to ask you about, just from a ceded perspective, is obviously all of us are aware of tons of things going on around the world. We've got climate change, geopolitical things happening. You've got natural catastrophes. You've got inflation and interest rates. You can say all of them if you want, but is there anything in particular that keeps you up at night as a buyer, or you think keeps most buyers up at night?
I think you've got a lot of those known unknowns, right?
Yeah.
I think it's always what are we not thinking about? That that's what any underwriter, any risk manager needs to be able to think about and react to, and try to position themselves to manage that, right? Because it's
Indeed.
It's those things that people don't see coming that tend to be the most painful.
Indeed, and I guess I failed to mention the rapidly changing technology environment around us as well, right? Which is another hot topic that seems to come up. Is that feeding into your day-to-day as well, or?
Oh, it feeds into really every aspect of the business, right? I think insurance is highly dependent on technology, and in many ways I think struggles with keeping up to date in with the latest tools, and and how to adopt those, and then iterate as the technology changes and enhances. So I think that's a challenge we have to deal with as an industry, and it's something we need to do a much better job of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, brilliant. So any final thoughts, or maybe a forecast on what you think people will be thinking about next year when we come to Monte Carlo again?
Well, I think it's very early in the hurricane season in the Atlantic.
Yep.
I think the conditions are certainly not encouraging for for a risk taker. So I think we're going to see a continuation of pretty significant natural disaster events. Hopefully no more man-made disasters, but that those can happen as well. But I think we need to plan for the current environment, and if the last few years is any indication, I think it could get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, uncertainty the new normal, I guess, in some ways. Brilliant.
It is.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Reinsurance Podcast here in Monaco. I'm sure you've got to run back to many more meetings now, but thanks for making some time to join us on the Supercede yacht. We really
Thanks
appreciate
very much.
your time.
Yes, I've had a good time. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Will.